Welcome back to GOVLEARN. So, we are going to be doing a vocabulary lesson. So, this isn't one of our episodes that are in the whole series. This is just a break off about vocabulary for the beginners who may not know exactly what I'm talking about. So, let's get to the simplest word to start, which is politics, what this is all about. The activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. So this is basically, let's start with the first little blurb there, before especially the debate. So, the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area. So this is basically the activities associated, which will be later, with the governance of a country or other area. So the governance is who's making the laws, who's holding the power. So the second blurb is especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. So the debate or conflict means the disagreement in the government on how to debate these issues, on what we should do with the issues. Also, when they say parties, that does not mean woohoo parties. It means political parties, which are groups of people that share the same ideologies and hope to gain positions in government to secure their influence. So speaking of government, the next word is government. Government is the governing body of a nation, state, or community. So we already went by what governance is. So government is governance. Okay, so now we're going to go through a couple of systems of government. So first is a democracy, a system of government by which the whole population, or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. So this is the people, power to the people, which decide the government. Then there's a republic, a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. So a republic is basically a toned-down version of a democracy. It's a democracy, except sometimes the positions in government are up to other members of government, not exactly the people. Sorry, we got a little interruption there. So we're going to go next. Sorry, that was funny. Next to tyranny, which is a cruel and oppressive governing rule. So a tyranny is what people want to overthrow. This is the point of rebellions, to fight against a tyranny, or to create one. So tyrannies are basically the whole point of civil wars. So, in an oligarchy, a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution, which is basically a tyranny except, well, not exactly a tyranny, we'll get to what it is later. But an oligarchy is like a group of like 5 or 10 people, or maybe just 20, which is not a lot, basically sharing power over the country. Oligarchy is not stable, and it will most likely end in anarchy, a state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority, which is basically when people are sharing so much power that the power doesn't exist, which means you have anarchy. So there's also aristocracy, the highest class in certain societies, especially those holding hereditary titles or offices. So these are the rich people, and the rich people often have a lot of power, and we'll get to that. Plutocracy, government by the wealthy. This happens a lot in the past, like 1600s, 1700s, when the aristocrats were the government, and some just wanted to control it, which they did. So we're going to get to United States now. We're going to start with Congress. So Congress is a national legislative body, especially that of the U.S. The U.S. Congress, which meets at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., was established by the Constitution of 1787 and is composed of the Senate and the House of Representatives. So the Senate is the upper house, which means it holds more power. It's the one that passes the laws, and it's the final say when it comes to Congress. And the House is the lower house, which is the first say, but not the final say. So, executive. The executive is having the power to put plans, actions, or laws into effect. So, the legislative is having the power to make the laws, and the executive branch passes the laws. So judicial, of, by, or appropriate to a court or judge. So once laws are passed by the executive branch, if there is a case saying that is unconstitutional, it goes to the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. So a delegate is a person sent or authorized to represent others, in particular an elected representative sent to a conference. So often the world leaders meet up at conferences all around the world. Except sometimes when the world leaders can't make it, they send delegates. And sometimes you can consider members of Congress delegates. Alright. So the Senate and the House we went through. So the Cabinet in the U.S. is a body of advisors to the President, composed of the heads of the executive departments of the government. So let's get into that. A body of advisors. Advisors are people who help basically tell the President what to do, but not exactly. Give them advice. Here it is. Advisor. A person who gives advice. Typically someone who is an expert in a particular field. So advisors are basically advising the President. So the President appoints these people to lead certain departments, which, for example, are the Department of State, which handles foreign affairs, and the Department of Defense, which handles the military. So the President nominates them, and the Senate has to confirm them and pass them through, by which the President would then also put it into effect. So it's a big cycle. The President appoints, then it goes to the Senate, and then it goes back to the President, and then they get appointed. So, the department, a division of a large organization such as a government, university, business, or shop, dealing with a specific subject, commodity, or area of activity. So a department is basically a division of people that help with a certain subject, commodity, or area of activity. So basically, subject. Founding Father of the United States, a member of the convention that drew up the U.S. Constitution, the law of the land in 1787. So we're going to go through three more ideologies. So first we have socialism, a political and economic theory of social organization, which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. So that's basically a toned-down version of this. Communism, a political theory derived from Karl Marx, a very legendary individual who helped lay the groundwork for politics in the 20th century. Advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned by the government and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. So this is money split by the government owns everything, and you don't really have to buy it, you rent it and then you give it back. So that's communism. And then fascism is the complete opposite, an authoritarian and nationalistic right-wing system of government and social organization. So this is capitalism, which is about money and circulation and buying things, toned up. Fascism is very competitive, and also they discriminate. They discriminate largely against groups that don't do well in the economy and don't do well with fascists. So the fascist principle was very made famous by Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. So in World War II, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France and others made up the Allied powers, which helped combat the Axis powers, which were Germany, Italy, and Japan. But we're going to focus on Germany and Italy. Germany was led by Adolf Hitler, a Nazi who believed that Jews should be killed. And that's fascism. He was a fascist. Also, Benito Mussolini, who was prime minister and dictator of Italy, who also believes in these principles, but a little less extreme than Hitler. Hitler is known as someone who has killed 6 million people. More. So, that is it for the vocabulary, and hopefully we can do another vocabulary with more words, but that's the stationary words that we're going to use for now. And then, stay tuned, because soon we're going to come out with our next episode, 1812, and following that, the episode Good Feelings. Thank you.